My family and I have been speaking with various family members, people with whom we've had friendships, to warn them of what's coming, to speak the truth to them, to share our testimony. I've tried to share this channel. I've tried to share the books with everybody that I know. And I did that very early on, and I've done it throughout the ministry. But now that things are coming to a close, now that I'm going to be taken, now that the Antichrist is going to rise and go after God's people, God is moving me to talk with certain people. And in the process of doing that, many of these people who do not consider themselves Christian have expressed a lot of so-called Christian religious abuse. Now, obviously, religious abuse cannot come from a true Christian. That's impossible. Those are two different spirits. But what these people have expressed is something very similar to what I felt at one time, what I've heard other people say. All the wars have been caused by religion, particularly Christianity. I want you to understand something. Counterfeit Christianity, first through the harlot Catholic Church, then through the prostitutes that bore out of her, then through the false prophet of the United States, and now through both the false prophet of the United States and the image, the abomination that it created of counterfeit Israel. All of that abuse has come through that antichrist system. All of it. The colonizing, throwing people into slavery, imprisoning them, torturing them, killing them, burning them at the stake, sawing them in two. The word talks about it. It's absurd that any of you would be more concerned about Islam, more afraid of Islam, when you can see that Israel and the false prophet of the United States go and bomb Iran, and that they have the restraint to call up the United States and say, go ahead and clear out your bases because we're about to do this. To warn. They don't sucker punch. They're not cowards hiding behind all these excuses. Oh, well, Hamas. And you're more afraid of them? That's a terrorist? Give me a break. God's people are safer over there than they are over here. And I don't even need to mention the pedophilia, the rape, the murder, the oppression in orphanages and taking people off their lands, throwing them into orphanages, taking away their culture and their families. Do I need to mention all of that? Is this not proven fact? And yet, so-called Christians, so-called Catholics will get on YouTube when you talk about it, and they'll defend it. And they'll say, no, we didn't do those things. No, these are basic facts. There is a worldwide organization called SNAP for victims, survivors, victims of the harlot Catholic Church. There is a global effort to expose the heinous abuses of that system. And not just that system, but God has exposed also the prostitutes that bore out of her, who could continue in her prostitutions. You think that that is a church of God when a pastor has murdered his wife, cheated on his wife, is addicted to porn, is grossly obese, is having heart attacks and diseases that God said he sends to those who are disobedient. What kingdom is that? Is that God's kingdom? Is that what that is? Come on. No, I don't want to hear God comes for the sinner. I don't want to hear, because every single one of us is a sinner, and that is a misinterpretation of what is written in the word. We're all sinners, but God didn't come for the active sinner, because he also says those who continue to deliberately go on sinning, there is no sacrifice left for them. Don't use that to excuse yourself, because you don't have the ability to do that. I also experienced incredible spiritual abuse growing up, religious abuse growing up, by a father who was filled with the devil and used religion in order to manipulate us into thinking that it was the righteous thing for us to reject our mother and punish her and destroy her, that it was the righteous thing. That is exactly the wording that he used with us when we were children. I'm very familiar with this spirit. And what that abuse does is it makes us not want to have anything to do with what that group is identifying as. And so if they say, we're the people of God, we're the chosen ones, we're Jews, we're Christians, then you start to get a certain taste in your mouth for that group, don't you? And so it kind of begs the question, is this really an effort to combat anti-Semitism or to fuel it? Is this really an effort to promote Christianity, to Christianize, as these people say? Oh no, we weren't colonizing. No, we didn't take slaves. We were Christianizing them. We were saving them by raping them and taking their land, stealing their kids. Oh no, it was all in the name of Christ. We didn't have any secondary gain in taking slaves. Oh no, the false prophet of the United States, it loves to go in and just restore people and give them a good democratic government. That's what they do, right? No, they don't. That's not what they do. They exploit the resources of the land. They do the bidding of fake Israel. Come on, guys. There is a disguise of Christianity that is the Antichrist kingdom. And we as Christians have a responsibility to get out there and call that out, to get out there and say, no, that is not Christianity that you're describing. I'm so sorry that you dealt with that, but that is not Christianity. Let me tell you what Christianity is. There are groups claiming to be Christian who are marching in the streets all over the world, but especially in the false prophet of the United States and in the 10 horns that became Western Europe. They are protesting immigration and claiming that this is fulfilling biblical prophecy because immigrants are the devil, right? Because this is just what Jesus would be doing. He'd be right out there protesting immigrants and advocating for oppressing the foreigner, right? And taking over land and settling, taking by force people's homes. Do you really think that Christ would have taken part in protesting, welcoming the poor and oppressed and giving them refuge, taking care of them, helping them? And if you believe that, if you believe that he would be part of that movement, how can you possibly believe that he would treat you differently? If that's the way he treats people, then that's the way he treats people. There's no favoritism. So what does that mean for you? How can you think that he's going to give you refuge from this life and the oppression and harassment of the devil? How can you think that? Or are you rich and you don't need any of that? Because he addresses that in Revelation 3. That you say, we're rich. We don't need a thing. And he says, you're wretched. You don't even know you're wretched. The wars, the abuse, the profaning of his name and distorting of Christianity has made people like me, at one time, not want anything to do with Christ. Not want anything to do with him. I would storm out of rooms when people would mention Jesus, because that's what I associated with Christ. That is an utter shame. And those of you who know better need to get out there and start talking. You are responsible for cleaning up this house and defending the name of God. And you need to know where this has come from so that you can show people in the Word, God said this was going to happen. He said in Daniel 9 that the people of the ruler who would come would destroy the sanctuary. He said that there was an antichrist in Daniel 11 who was going to invade the beautiful land. He said that there was an antichrist kingdom who was going to do this and was going to distort so that we would not know what Christianity actually is. But you know what? We have a responsibility to go back to the Word and His Spirit and get our Christianity from Him. Let me tell you what I've learned from Him. That's what I've done with you. Why aren't you guys doing that? You need to stop using the language of Christianity as such a big word and a big concept. Oh, it's just an umbrella term for all the denominations and the harlot Catholic Church, right? No, that is the divided kingdom of the Antichrist. And as long as you keep going along with the narrative that that is Christianity in any way, shape, or form, you are contributing to the lie. You are contributing to the problem. And you are withholding healing from people who need to know that that is not Christ at all. And what the devil has done in defining all of that to be Christianity here in the world is to create a situation where we never get close enough to actually learn the truth. We were averse to it. Someone was sharing with me the other day that as a child, they were sent to a program, an after-school program called Care Youth League, which I believe was a Catholic program, and that they were read at like 5 years old, kindergartners read terrifying things from the Bible, not explained to them in an appropriately developmental way, or in a way appropriate to their development, just terrified them. Like, that's what Jesus does. Gentle Jesus, who was like, let the children come to me, and placed his hands on them and blessed them. You think he would have been like, fire and brimstone, 5-year-old? No, that kind of fear is satanic. It is a strategy, it is a tactic to terrify you so that you want nothing to do with God. These people use hypocrisy, abuse, deflection, oppression, manipulation to control and fearmonger people into submission. That is what this government is doing. That is what the government of Israel is doing, not only in Israel, but in its occupied territories in the United States, in Argentina. These are the adults that you grew up with who couldn't be questioned. But the children see how they live and that they don't do right. These are those people that we see in this administration in the country where I live, in the United States, who can't be questioned. Pete Hegseth is asked about his infidelity, and he says, oh no, you're not going to ask me about that. Jesus already paid for that. You think that's the Christian response? That is not the response of someone who has been repentant, who's learned from their behavior and wants to share with transgressors God's ways. That is a person who is using the disguise of Christianity to excuse himself and be holier than thou, self-righteous, as he uses language like FAFO, which I'm not going to say what that stands for. I'm sure most of you know what that stands for. I didn't even know what it stood for when I heard him say it. How are you using an acronym like that while claiming to be a Christian? How are you all tatted up in crosses when God said don't get a tattoo and don't set up an image? That is not Christianity. That's hypocrisy. That's a lie. These are adults who live like pagans because they are. That's an administration who lives like pagans because they are. Oh, but God bless America. God bless the false prophet. If you knew what America was, you wouldn't be even saying such a foolish, stupid thing. Because God is going to throw the false prophet into the lake of burning sulfur. He is going to throw the antichrist into the lake of burning sulfur. How are you going to say God bless it? No, you're a tool right now for God to fulfill his will. So for those of us grieving and lamenting the detestable things that are being done in Jerusalem, in people calling themselves Christians and Jews, will the hypocrisy be exposed? These are the things that we're crying out to God. How long, sovereign Lord, holy and true, until you avenge our blood? Till you judge the inhabitants of the earth and avenge our blood? That's what I'll be crying out very soon. How long, Lord, until you vindicate us? How long until you give us justice? How long? How can you let these people speak as though they know you, but malign those of us who do know you, those of us who do regard you, those of us who suffer for you? I want to tell you, people of God, that hypocrisy will be exposed. Everything that's been done in the earth and all the blood shed in it will be exposed. God has promised us this. But you need to get out there and stop waiting for God to fulfill and be a part of what he's doing. Be a part of his name. Because if you're not bearing that fruit of having the seal of God, you don't have it. It's been a false alarm. Go discern this with him.